Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Welcome back to Pallets to Pints, where we sit down with leaders within the beer and beverage distribution industry to share perspectives and experiences in what we have learned together. So today's episode is especially meaningful. In recognition of International Women's Day, we are here with Frieda Maisel. She is the Senior Vice President for Legal and Governmental Affairs for Gulf Distributing Holdings. And she was also the last chair for NBWA. Rebecca, her leadership has influenced and shaped, not just this one company, but really a whole entire industry. So we are really excited to sit down and have a conversation with her today. Thank you so much for joining us, Rebecca. It's good to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the kind words. That really means a lot.
It's good to see you.
You too.
So we'll jump right into it. In recognition of International Women's Day, would love, and I think that the audience would find it very valuable to hear about your guys' background and how Gulf Distributing got started.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a very much women-driven organization. So in 1973, my grandmother, Frieda Maisel, had the opportunity to purchase a small beer distributorship, one county down in Mobile, Alabama, a couple of trucks, a handful of employees, a couple of brands, Heineken, Jack's Beer out of New Orleans, and Miller High Life. And she took that opportunity. At the time, women couldn't take out a loan. So my grandfather went down to the bank with her. He co-signed on the loan, and she told him at that point, it's going to be my company, my suppliers, my employees. He was running his own commercial real estate business. So she bought the company and she jumped right in. And for 20 years, she ran and grew this company. And since then, it has stayed in the family. Her son, my dad, Elliot, took over really officially in the early 90s and grew the company organically through brand acquisition, through territory acquisition, and brought us to where we are today. So my brothers and I are the third generation of leadership at Gulf Distributing Holdings. My dad's still our CEO. My brothers and I have been back for over a decade, all of us, and have really learned the ins and outs of the business. And we are excited to sort of be taking the reins now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we're sitting in Mobile today, too, where your grandmother started the business and really kicked it off here. So it's such a special building. I know we were, all here for the grand opening. So it was a really special time. And you can really tell the pride you guys have in how you started in this town, too. So really, really special. That's awesome.
Mobile's a great place. It's our headquarters. It's where we were born and raised, and still sort of the central kind of headquarters of the company. And yeah, we're super, super excited that you guys have gotten to come and have a real good look around at our operations out of this new headquarters. Very, very proud of our investment in this building in downtown Mobile. Yeah. This was the old newspaper printing facility. So sits right in the heart of downtown Mobile, right here on the Mobile River, which is where my grandmother's original warehouse was. So it's really sort of a homecoming for us. A long time coming, and a lot of work that went into renovating this building, retrofitting this old newspaper printing shop into a beverage warehouse. And we're excited about sort of the state-of-the-art technology that we've been able to implement, thanks in part to Rarig, and also many, many of our other partners. And gosh, you're right. You can really see it in the employees. You can see it in the day-to-day operations. It's amazing what a new facility can do for culture and for morale.
Yeah.
So couldn't be prouder of this spot.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for coming and looking around and enjoying it with us.
Oh, of course. I love seeing all the pictures of Frieda on the wall, too, and all of her newspaper features and all of that. So it's really cool to see her, be emphasized and kind of celebrated in this building. It's really cool.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. She's the OG.
Love it. How has her example kind of influenced your personal life or your career? Any decisions you have made up until this point?
Yes, in so many ways. I think that sort of pioneer mindset that she had, that trailblazer mindset that she had, is something that lives in me, both in my DNA and in trying to channel her in every possible way that I can. She was a woman coming into the industry at a time where that was, especially in an ownership, an outright ownership role, not something that she inherited, but something that she came in and acquired and set out to learn. I mean, before she started running the beer business, she was teaching middle school English.
Wow.
So she did quite a career pivot.
Yeah.
And I just think about the confidence that must have taken. I think a lot of us, especially as women, younger women, can tend to have an imposter syndrome and think like, I don't know if I'm really set out for this. And for me, channeling my inner Frieda, so to speak, I think it gives me the confidence to say, these are decisions that I can make. I can take, go with my gut and go with my experience, and I can really jump in and make decisions on behalf of the company. And so, yes, in so many ways, her confidence and her sort of entrepreneurial ability to do that is so inspiring for me.
I need to channel my own Frieda, my inner Frieda, and it'll give me the confidence. It's gonna be my new mantra.
Yes,
sure.
girl.
I love it. So with Frieda's, immense influence on you, how do you personally think about maybe passing that same influence and that same role off to others within the industry? And what does that women's leadership look like within specifically beer distribution?
Sure. I mean, I think, women in the beer industry and in the beverage industry in general, I think that we've made a ton of progress in terms of visibility, in terms of representation from where it was certainly in 1973, even when I was a kid, till now. I think we've seen tremendous strides. However, particularly in the distribution tier of the industry, I think women are still largely underrepresented when it comes to leadership roles. So I think for me, listen, the beer distribution industry in particular it's a relationship business, and it's also largely or exclusively really family-run companies. And because of that, I think that in and of itself can mean there's a bit of a barrier to entry for women, but also a tremendous opportunity for certain women. So I think that as those of us who are able to be in leadership positions because we're part of a family begin to step up as women in leadership roles, we can not only be that visibility, but also be sponsors for women, mentors for women, advocates for women, encouraging women to learn the business backwards and forwards, to be involved in maybe roles within our companies that aren't traditionally roles that are filled by women. Yeah. Operations roles, for example, learning a 360-degree view of the beer distribution industry, setting that foundation to then have your name be kind of in the ring when it comes to, okay, who are we looking for internally to fill positions as they open up, as people age out, become retirement age. That's when you start to see those opportunities come up. So I think for myself, being someone who's fortunate enough to be in a part of the family that owns the business, I see my responsibility as identifying other women. Obviously we're always looking for the best possible person to fill the position, and we're going to make the decision that is in the best interest of the company and what's going to help operations. But if we can continue to set people up, and particularly to set women up to be one of, the people in the running to be a perfect person to fill these roles, then I feel like that is, we're doing our job in terms of rounding out the industry and making it, more of an even balance between men and women. And I think that's really important on a number of levels.
Yeah, I see that all over Gulf as well. Like I see women in operations, so it's very inspiring to be here and be able to work with you guys. Very thankful for that. And what examples or ways has Gulf really prioritized, opening up those opportunities for women in operations specifically, whether it's, certain technology or equipment or just a mindset shift. Any examples on that?
Well, I think that it starts with leadership and it starts with family ownership, being open to the proposition and not being sort of single-minded. And we are very, very, I think, kind of that's in our DNA to view women as, just as capable and available for these types of operations roles as men. In large part because we are, as I said, we've always been kind of a female-driven organization, starting with Frieda and continuing with myself. And I think, so a little bit, it hasn't been a hurdle for us because it's kind of natural. But also in a lot of ways, I think that we are mindful. And I think if you drive the culture from a family leadership standpoint of we're looking for the best person for the position, and you are open-minded about, look, we have a big geography, we have a wide range of positions, and we tell people all the time, cross-train. If you started in marketing or you started in HR, but you're interested in sales or you're interested in operations, we're open to training you in these positions. And I think that's how we've ended up where we are, and we do have a number of women in operations, a lot of them that we've been, lucky enough to promote internally. And then some that we've, sought out externally that have had fantastic experience at other big logistics companies, Amazon and things like that. Yeah. And so I think just being mindful to it and being open to it. So it's not a set mission or objective to put women in these roles, but it's something that we've said out loud that we want to do when possible. So, I think that's just an easy first step.
Yeah, I love that. And you personally with, I know your involvement with Brew and with state associations and NBWA, how have you taken that responsibility to mentor or give advice to these women starting their career in the beer industry?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's been kind of natural. I was first put in the position of next gen chair. Yeah. And so that was my first kind of opportunity to lead, I guess, as a next generation beer distributor. And I saw there the difference that visibility makes. Mm-hmm. And it is truly amazing just by virtue of being who I am and bringing my skill set to the table and taking that role as next gen chair. I was showing other women and other people in the beer distribution industry that they too can do this. And I think, by being more vocal, by putting myself in a position, by raising my hand and saying, I'd like to try that, and by not letting insecurity or imposter syndrome or a lack of confidence in some way, shape, or form be a hurdle for me. Not to say I didn't experience all of those things, because I certainly did, and I think everyone does it in some way, shape, or form. But, just letting myself have the courage to step into the position to raise my hand. And that visibility, has been, for me, more of, I think, the impression that I've made than sort of more a structured mentorship per se. And so I think, while I have maybe indirectly or directly had mentees, and I've had mentors of my own, certainly, throughout my career, I think just what I've learned is just by being visible, I have been able to kind of open up doors and inspire others. And that's really cool, and it's really easy. Yeah. And I think other people can jump right in and do the same. And I'm seeing that happen, and it's awesome.
It's really cool to see, especially with Brew, all these women in different roles and in different levels of leadership really get involved and take wisdom from them and just kind of have conversations on how they got there. It was really cool to be a part of that.
It's amazing. And I think, the thing about it is, like, Brew is a result, as was Next Gen, of NBWA membership speaking up and saying, this is where we see a need. Mm-hmm. This is where we see an opportunity. And, I think Next Gen was created, 10, 15 years ago, and it's been, I would argue, one of the most important programs in NBWA history in terms of, just continued education, networking, best practices. Definitely. I mean, this is a big industry, but in a way, beer distribution and beverage distribution is really a small industry as well. And Brew has been a natural evolution of that. Yeah. Okay, for folks that we have in the organization, largely women, but everyone who doesn't have a best practice group that they can share with that may not be, for one reason or another, a fit for Next Gen. Brew is a fantastic opportunity to get to know one another, to get to network, to share those best practices. And just as with NextGen, it has organically come up at the sort of request and cry of NBWA members who are saying, hey, we need this, we want this. And in classic form, NBWA has done a fantastic job developing
Fantastic, for sure. That's awesome. I had the pleasure to see you speak for your year at as chair for NBWA. What were the most fulfilling parts of being in that role that really stood out and that you'll be excited to take with you as memories in the future?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, first of all. That being chair of NBWA was truly a dream come true. I mean, the second that I stepped foot into an NBWA convention, really in college, I mean, as a teenager, I thought to myself, I want to do that. I think I can do that. And so to actually put in the work to be elected and have the trust and confidence of my peers, first in Florida, electing me as a state board member from Florida and then from Alabama, and then being able to stay on as PAC chair and earn the trust and confidence of the board was truly a dream come true. And so, I think one of the best parts about being able to be involved in that level is you really get a good feel for everything that NBWA does for this industry. For honestly, the amount of just tenure within NBWA, the institutional knowledge that exists there, their ability to change and adapt based on what's going on in the industry, which is constantly changing. It's really cool to see and be a part of that, and to be able to drive some of that feels really, really special. And so I feel that during my year there. Certainly every incoming chair, the joke always is, you think your year is going to go one way, you think the industry is going to be going a certain way, and there's always a curveball.
Of course.
And so I had plenty, but I was lucky enough to be surrounded by wonderful staff at NBWA, and also by amazing fellow officers and a great board. And that is just such a living, breathing board. There's change and turnover there every year, so you're always getting new perspectives. And we're starting to see a lot of next generation folks come in, a lot of non-family leadership stepping up to fill those board seats, and it's really a cool thing. So yeah, for me, I mean, just the ability to be sort of inside and see how the sausage is made and have a finger on the pulse of everything going on in the industry, and be able to shape that organization and shape the industry's response to certain things going on was absolutely an honor and a dream come true.
Do you have any examples of, really intriguing or perspectives that made you really think and ponder for a second about how you guys are doing things, or any perspectives from NBWA or your other state associations that kind of made you guys think a little bit?
Always. And one of the coolest things, and I never had to justify my, because being a part of NBWA, it is an investment on the part of Gulf Distributing. Certainly, it's an investment of my time, taking me away from the day-to-day of Gulf Distributing. It's an investment in terms of travel and that sort of thing, but constantly a justification, because going to something like that, being exposed to distributors who sell other brands that we don't work with, who work in other territories, who have laws or things that they've gotten done in their state legislature that support their business, that support the industry, that support public policy and public health and safety. Those are the types of things that you go and you learn, and you really can bring back and implement at home. You really can bring back and implement in the company or in Alabama or in the state of Florida. And so that in and of itself is just absolutely invaluable when it comes to, kind of getting other perspectives. And it's such an amazing thing to have this industry that works together, that rallies together, that is transparent and willing to share and doesn't gatekeep best practices. And so, that's been just awesome in terms of being a part of that board.
I look forward to it every year, just to kind of absorb all the knowledge and information that everyone's sharing. So I'm so glad. Yeah, it's never going to stop, right?
Never.
Perfect. Now we'll pivot to kind of your role here at Gulf as the Senior Vice President of Legal and Governmental Affairs.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Wondering if you have any insight for us on where legislation's going or what's looking forward in beer distribution. Any insight there?
Sure. I mean, I think, beer distribution in particular and alcohol in particular is so state specific, and that is a product of the 21st Amendment, the three-tier system, these tied house evil laws. All of these are driven by state laws. So we operate both in Alabama and in Florida, for example. Yep. The laws are very similar, but they do have differences. So, I think we have state associations that sort of drive policy, and NBWA helps in kind of overseeing that and in helping in any way they can in the specific states. So state by state, there is a ton going on from a legislative standpoint, and there always is, and there always will be, and that is the beauty of living in this very heavily regulated system, which we understand and love and adore, honestly. I think this year we're seeing more than ever, blurring of the lines, product diversification, distributors stepping outside of the alcohol category and into products like spirits-based RTDs, like hemp-based beverages. And so I think a lot of what we're seeing on a legislative standpoint is state legislators grappling with how to regulate these products. Of course, as beer distributors, we always have a variety of different bills that we're paying attention to. We're paying attention to beer bills driven by craft brewers that would sort of erode the three-tier system. We're paying attention to bills that are coming in from the hemp beverage industry who are trying to regulate and trying to get common sense boundaries around that category, all while, regulation is attempting to be had at the federal level. So it's, the interplay between those two things. We have states that are addressing tax issues. Some states have come with bills that would reduce taxes on beer that's produced in the United States. And imports would be taxed at a higher rate. So we see challenges and issues from all across the United States, really, and it's so state-based. But like I said, NBWA keeps us on our game.
Do you have any sort of advice for beer executives that also feel responsible to participate or help aid in these legislative conversations or these new regulations? Do you have any advice for these other beer executives in various states as well?
Oh, gosh. I mean, beer distributors do such a fabulous job. We are so rooted in our local communities. And I think because of that, and just generationally, we learn that because we're so heavily regulated, we've got to continue to maintain relationships with our regulators, with our state legislators, with our federal legislators. And so, my advice and what I've learned from so many of these folks is continue to have those conversations, continue that education. As the years go by, there's turnover. There's turnover in the legislature. There's turnover in the regulatory administrative entities. And so that continued education on why the three-tier system is so important from a public health and safety standpoint, on why these trade practice and tied house evil laws are so important, on the franchise laws that help sort of buttress the system and what those do in terms of driving choice and variety in our industry. I think if I could say any bit of advice, it would be educate, educate, educate. Mm-hmm. And of course, you can't do that without having your own mastery of the laws and of this complex system of regulations and laws. So I think, continue to educate yourself so that you can speak confidently about it when it comes to maintaining these relationships.
Do you have any recommendations or do you feel like there's any gap where vendors could maybe help support you guys in these goals as well?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, look, to the extent that vendors are tied into beverage distribution and relying on this system and this tier to drive their own businesses, I would say absolutely educate yourself, learn about the three-tier system, learn about the franchise laws, learn about trade practice, because these truly are the set of rules that allow beer distributors to operate, that allow us to continue to make these types of investments in our companies. I mean, without the sort of assurance of this regulatory framework that protects us, making investments in technology, making investments in software becomes a little bit more risky. The better the laws and rules, and the more that we can kind of honestly maintain the status quo, the better for vendors that work with beer distributors, no doubt.
To wrap it up, do you have one or a few things that you're really looking forward to within beer distribution, something that we can all look forward to in these next few years, or maybe in the next more than a few years?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's really, really amazing to see the evolution of this industry. And I think that, the only constant in beer distribution is change. And so I think one thing that we've been proud of at Gulf Distributing, and that our industry can boast as a whole, is that as distributors, we have been so incredibly adaptable to that change. We've been nimble. We've been able to kind of change and go where, skate where the puck is going, for lack of a better term. And so I think the industry will continue to see more blurring of the lines between the categories. This emphasis on flavor, I think, is not going away, and that's driving a lot of that blurring of the lines. Distributors, who have been traditional beer distributors, are now seeing themselves in other channels like spirits, non-alcoholic, and distributors who have been traditional spirits distributors are now coming into the beer universe. So you're seeing this kind of meshing of the lines, and I think that is going to naturally present some challenges. It's going to put some people in a little bit of discomfort for a little bit until we kind of catch our stride. But in my opinion, you're either growing and evolving or you're going.
Yeah.
And so the only way kind of to growth is through. And, I think we're going to see from distributors, we're going to see continued investment in technology. I think distributors are, more so than the classic sales and logistics organizations that we've always been and will always have an emphasis on that. We are striving to be real, true strategic partners for our suppliers that we work with. I mean, we're their eyes and ears in our local markets. We are here to provide feedback. We're here to drive sales. We're here to execute, but also, like I said, to provide that feedback, to report back, to say, hey, this is where we have to be nimble. This is where we have to change. Not only that, but strategic partners for our retailers, telling them this is where the consumer is going. This is where the shelf space needs to go. This is what needs to happen. And really bringing them the choice and variety that their consumers want to see. Definitely. And so, I think we've got plenty of diversification coming down the line. As distributors, I think we'll continue to assess our SKUs, to rationalize SKUs in a way that makes sense. And that's part of that supplier feedback that we're going to be giving. And listen, I think as long as we can continue to do that, as long as we can continue to invest and to question and challenge ourselves and say, just because we've always done something a certain way, does that mean we have to continue to do it that way? Or is there a better way that we can do it? I think as long as we can continue to do that, we can stay relevant, we can grow, and we can continue to be valuable to this system.
Yeah. I'm excited to kind of observe that over the next few years as well, and support where we can, and just be your biggest cheerleader from the side. So it's really exciting to see where the industry is going, and I'm very excited to see how it's going to go forward.
We totally appreciate it. We're excited to see where it goes too. We're here. We're ready. We're along for the ride in our own sense, kind of riding the waves. But we appreciate, our partnership with you guys. We appreciate our partnerships with so many different vendors across the system. And I would just say, continue to bring the latest and greatest, continue to bring disruption. And, as distributors, we're going to be on board for whatever moves the needle and whatever makes us the best partners for our suppliers and retailers.
You can count on us for sure. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing all your stories and your insight. I was definitely taking some mental notes that whole time. I'll be watching this back and studying. But it was very valuable to have you here. So thank you so much. I know our audience is going to love this. So I appreciate your time today, and stay tuned for the next Pallets to Pints episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Rebecca.